What's happening, people? What you need. We're not going to talk boxing, we're talking politics real quick. So, Donald Trump is playing political games, just like the swamp people. Now, things are they're going to critical mass because the GOP doesn't have spine. I thought they would by now have come to conclusion and discredited what Donald Trump was doing. But if they don't, there should be legal ramifications starting now on anything he says in the public. And lawsuits should be filed against him for defamation of character and for defamation of process. So if he continues, there are legal implications and he should be censored. I thought Floyd Mayweather, when he alleged that Manny Pacquiao had used PEDs in the public, Manny Pacquiao sued him. And now, if Donald Trump continues to defame states, whether it's Pennsylvania or whatever other state, and his lawyers continue to make false claims, one, the lawyers should be sanctioned in the court of law, and two, the state should sue him. So, if he continues doing that, it is time to use the law. That's the one thing that they will respect. This is the one thing that will let them understand you cannot go around spreading lies. So this is how we mute Donald Trump and we stop him from doing what he's doing. As to the Congress and these cowardly, nasty people, and I'm not just talking about Republicans and Democrats, I'm talking about the compromised senators and congressmen. If they continue to be implicit in this by being silent or taking up the spiel of Donald Trump, once again, anyone who opens their mouth and starts to say this stuff needs to be sued. Lawsuits should start flying left, right, and center by the states, initiated by people in the states, because if Republicans can throw lawsuits, elections to the courts, similarly, counter lawsuits should start to begin. Now, I'm not playing around when I say, thankfully, the democratic process has proven itself to be very, very stable in the midst of this storm. But there must be consequences for actions. And if Donald Trump can only understand by the law and legal means, then that's what will have to happen. So there are ways to censor people and mute erroneous things that they're speaking. Now, freedom of speech is great, but it must be held accountable. Donald Trump knows about legal means. He knows about NDAs. He knows about how to censor people. But if he continues along this pathway, that is what must be done to him. Now, with respect to the actual states themselves and their legislature and so on, I think the deadline has passed for certification. So certification, I think yesterday was the deadline or something like that. All states are now certified. And it also went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court kicked that thing out of there like it was no business. I think that a lot of people think that appointees, because a guy appoints a judge or appoints a person, that they would just do their bidding. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. And Donald Trump needs to understand, if you spread misinformation, you will be held accountable in a court of law. Rudy Giuliani and all of the people, all the lawyers who have been affected by viruses and so on, They step up and they're speaking all of this disinformation, which is false, or they don't have claims or evidence behind it. I was listening to an Indian lady speaking on allegations of fraud in Detroit, and she's speaking as if the black people are stupid and they're monkeys and they didn't know what was going on. And then she speaks about how they were uh, anti GOP people or Republican people. This is what I'll say: every election counting process is supposed to have cameras. There's supposed to be cameras monitoring every single situation. So all you have to do, just like what they did in Georgia, is look at the footage on the cameras to see and verify if that is true. It's really simple. It's a public event. There are poll watchers, there are watchers everywhere. So if her claims were true, you would see it on camera. If they're not true, you won't see it on camera. It's that simple. So that's what I have to say about that. These claims that votes were changed and all of this bullshit. Here's the problem. The problem is, and all you have to do is audits and see. The problem is that you have to look at, and that's where the audit comes in handy. You look at the audit and you can see if there was any remote changing on the ballots or tampering on the ballots. Now, if after everything is said and done, you can't find that evidence that the person claims, because remember, that's just one side of the story. You can't get evidence from the claims and from the data, then that person was lying. So this is the way how we look at it. In Michigan, I can guarantee you they're very thorough in what they do. I think Detroit had some problems because Detroit, again, is a very big city. But by and large, the claims, because I know people were harassed in Wisconsin. People were harassed in Wisconsin and slowed down their counting. And I believe the same thing was happening in Detroit. In fact, I think people were trying to protest outside the Detroit building or something like that. So they got a lot of pressure. But I want to say there's a way to verify everything. There's always a way to verify the truth from a situation. Someone can claim certain things, and then when you look at the actual process and what went down, you realize they were all without substance. So when people step forward and they continue to make reckless claims, I agree, John. I agree 100% with you there. I thought Wilder was making some really stupid claims with Tyson Fury. There was some validity with the gloves, but because we saw it on camera. So yeah. But to be honest with you, that's not the reason why he lost the fight. He's gonna lose that fight anyway. And Tyson Fury always outboxes him. So I agree with you on that, 100%. I think that sore losers. We have people who are sore losers out here, and I've seen it with Pacquiao versus Mayweather. I've seen it with Wilder versus Fury. I've seen it with Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez. And like I said before, John, that in sports, that's the mentality, and now we see it in politics. But there's a way to make people have a dose of reality and stop them from spreading misinformation. So I don't care that he's the president of the United States. He has to fall in line with the law, and he's gotten a lot of leeway, which I know the next president will not have. They'll look at him with a microscope. or maybe not. Maybe people will go into representation. But whatever they do, I do believe it's very important that he's held accountable now. You got to reel that real in. Stop talking so reckless. So if you want to continue that, and the lawyers want to continue this recklessness and filing these things, don't give them any more leeway, because we've passed the point now where we have tons of information and evidence to show that that point of challenging is over. Okay. Now, I don't know why a lot of congressmen and some senators are going along with this nonsense, even though in the background they don't believe any of it. It's not going to help the Republican Party. And I do believe that the Republican Party and the Republicans who are supporting this are making a fatal decision, because we're getting more and more data and more evidence that not only supports who won the election, that's almost irrelevant. Now we're getting data and information on the candidates for the Senate. And in addition to that, all of that's all irrelevant. This is the most relevant thing, that the facts regarding what's happening in America right now, the current issue with COVID, the current issue with the economics, the current issue with people living their daily lives, is a real one. And the people who, that's the reality of the situation. And the people who are pretending that that's not so, and they're spreading misinformation, need to shut the hell up. Okay? Because it's not helping people. All right? I am the last person on the planet you would hear saying, listen, you need to use some kind of face protection, but you do need to use some kind of face protection. And if you don't know the person next to you, then by God, use some fucking common sense and don't rub up against them and get too close to them. It's not that you're being antisocial. It's that if the guy had a common cold, you wouldn't want to get it, and so you wouldn't rub up against it. Use your common sense. Use the social distancing. Use the distancing. Clean your hands. Keep your body clean and your hands clean. This is common fucking sense. Those people want to go visit people and stuff for the Christmas, dial it down. There's always the next year. Dial it down. I know there's a propaganda campaign and they can make things, the media is blowing things out of proportion, but take the necessary precautions. It won't cost you anything to do. With respect to masks, you guys know where I stand with that. I personally can't use a mask because it restricts my breathing. So I use a shield, which is equally as good to if you respect social distancing. 3 feet to 6 feet away from a person is not going to harm them. You can go shake their hand, but don't stay in their sphere. It's just common sense. You still can go to work, you still can operate, do different things, right? For the places where there's a complete shutdown, that is, people are going to stay in their houses for at least 2 weeks, like happened in my country. And unfortunately, the entire country was shut down for a while. I'm free now to go wherever I want and do whatever I want. Okay, we've come out of the at least the restrictions for COVID for now. Now my country wants to make it mandatory that everybody gets a vaccine, which fuck them. I'm not taking that. Fuck them. All right, I'm not taking any vaccine. Doesn't mean you don't have to take a vaccine. I'm not taking any vaccine. That's the only thing. I'm not interested in it. I don't care what anybody says. I listened to Stephen Colbert, who was joking about, the vaccine having a chip in it. Well, there's nanotechnology. Anything's possible. But what I'm saying is, I'm not taking any vaccine. I'm not mad at anybody. Just like how I don't wear masks. I wear screens. And it's not anything personal, but you guys have heard me coughing on here. I can't. It restricts my breathing. right? And then what's the sense of using a mask and then you pull it down and just your mouth is covered? And then I'm still gonna, when I talk, I'm still gonna push back in my stale air into my mouth. No, that's not cool. I'm not doing that. So uh, when I start wearing masks, I start coughing uncontrollably. So it doesn't make sense for me. And if you need to get like a medical certification for that, get your medical certification for it. Made me cough. I didn't even want to cough, but I coughed. Just thinking about it. So for those people, I see a lady out there, she's selling, she uses a shield. I think the shield is a good idea for those people who can't wear masks. I don't think masks should have ever been a mandatory, but in my country, there's so many people who don't care about other people. They go in public and cough and stuff. Even now, that's a strange thing about every country. People don't always obey the law. So like even then they clamp down and then they got this huge fines for people who don't wear a mask here. But I get along. I had to go to the bank. I had to do my thing. Usually the bank, they say you need a mask under your mask. And I'm like, why? That makes no sense. The shield that I have, nothing can go through and project onto the person next to me. It comes back on me anyway. So why am I? So what I did was I said, okay, well, if I gotta get a medical, I get a medical, but I'm not wearing any damn mask. And you don't have to use, it was the weirdest thing, man. I could tell you guys stories. People would be standing 2 feet away from each other in lines because there's lots of lines, right? 2 feet away from each other because they want to go into the bank or whatever. I would stay away from them. I'd step out of the line and just sort of keep it a distance from them. And the weirdest thing is nobody there gets COVID. Isn't that strange? No one in the line is getting COVID, and people violating the rule all the time. I'm not, and then and involuntary because everybody has, even though they have the spacing stuff, a lot of people, because what happened is a lot of banks were closed down. So there's one central bank, but some banks have opened up now, and so you have these ridiculously long lines. And what people don't realize is, if you want to get COVID, that's the way to do it. Once you get enough, think about this. If you got a bunch of people bunched together, right? And then they say no public gatherings, then a fucking line is going to cause, sorry about the F-bombs, a line is going to cause a whole bunch of people to bunch together. It's kind of like common sense, you would think, right? I don't know. John said Wilder was ahead of his time. He used social distancing when he fought Fury. Problem was his right hand couldn't reach with that much social distancing. John just wants to try and make this into boxing. I'll do another piece for you, okay? I'll do another piece for you, John, on boxing. So since that's what you want. But like I was saying before, just counterproductive. I always feel that crowds and lines are counterproductive. So I stay away from that. But do I talk to people? Of course I don't just stay in my house. I don't just, you can't do that. And I see so many people that domestic violence is on the rise and suicide, and it's because not only do people not have money, not only are they not in a routine and going to work or whatever, but then and a lot of people relegated to collecting these checks or whatever. It's fucked up, man. And I mean that none of that helps the situation. It's good to have a little money or something to get you through, but this is just very depressing. And so many businesses have closed down. It's a very depressing situation. And even in my country, it has not come back to the kind of level of activity it used to have. And all of these things I think about. Now I'm a businessman, so I get out there and I do my thing. I pull my hustle, but it's rough. It's rough for everybody. And so you want to ease that burden. So the federal government, like I said, they need to come right with this plan that they have. And also, they need to stop playing politics. Right now, there's politics being played with Donald Trump and his and the people, and they're manipulating the people. Some of the people, other people, their eyes are opening and they're like, okay, wait, hold on. Why is the Supreme Court turning this shit down? And when they look into the matter, they see and they're like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? So people are this is the time now where people are getting tired of the bullshit. Some of the people who are rallied up and stuff, and the little bits and pieces of information that are partly true, partly false. Because don't get me wrong, there have been mistakes in the election, and and so on. That any election you'll have that, especially when you have human error in there. But it's another thing when people are using these very these singular cases to make it to try and string together a theory that is widespread, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You have this highly scrutinized election that's not close, and theories that just make no damn sense. All right. So I didn't want to go into that particularly. I think it's more important to talk about things which are to come. But with respect to these blatant false allegations that have no proof, and the defaming of states and how they manage and run it, and the defaming of people and particular characters and calling them out and calling them names, slap a lawsuit on these guys and can that shit. Okay, they're only going to understand when you involve the law. Once you involve the law in the courts, they shut the fuck up. Okay, and we've seen that time and time again. So stop that bullshit. Otherwise, the people who you're defaming, slap a lawsuit in your ass. So they need to stop that. They need to stop it, and they need to stop. President Trump has through the years defamed the character of several people. Okay, attacked them just because they didn't agree to him, and he's lucky he hasn't gotten more case action lawsuits against him and anybody disseminating that information. And not because you're president of the United States. I know there's a certain degree of immunity you have, but I mean, you're not going to be president forever. So if he needs to consider that, because a series of lawsuits can be started against him, and then he will have a lot of problems. So if I was him, I'd start reining in what I say. Be careful what I say. You want to start your underground stuff, and like Alex Jones and so on, and have your movement going. Nobody's mad at you, but don't give inaccurate information. And use words like allegedly if you want. But be careful with your language. He's not even being careful with his language. And so as a result of that, slap lawsuits on his ass. Start raining it down. And citizens, you need to defend yourself and your integrity and your standing. So if he continues that bullshit, sue his ass. He's rich. He should be able to pay. Sue him and continue to sue him. And when they drop 7, 8, 9, 10 action lawsuits on his ass, he's going to learn everything has consequences. All right? Stop that bullshit. Deontay Wilder went to the courts to get Tyson Fury to fight him. It looks like they will fight. And that's good for him and for Tyson Fury. That third fight, I believe Tyson Fury will win. But hey, Wilder can try. We already saw what Tyson Fury can do in 2 fights, so it is what it is. I'm gonna catch you guys later. What you need in the building. But I decided to talk on this political issue, which it doesn't have to necessarily go the direction that people think it's gonna go in, which is this guy talking and talking and talking. And it's good that he's trying to go to rallies and rally up people and stuff. But he needs to be careful how he speaks and defaming other people's character. And they need to slap a lawsuit on his ass if he keeps on doing that. If you want to use my name and run it in the mud, You're going to have to pay for that. What you need. Peace.